Hello everybody, episode 22 of Wireheads. We are here, and we have been exposed to some interesting media recently. By the way, don't trust the media, it might be lying to you.
We aren't, because we're trustworthy podcasters on the internet, not like those shill big media sites. Anyway.
Long story short, we've had a power wash simulator thing there. But that aside, don't worry, it's all fake. They're
not in fact adding Asmongold's bedroom to Power Wash Simulator. That's all you need to know, folks.
However, what is being added to the game, yes, this is how I was tying it all together, we are getting base building. That's right.
Not a Power Wash Simulator, to be very clear.
We're playing.
Yeah, it's Cyberpunk RED. We're back to the game we actually talk about on this channel.
Yeah. Wireheads, the Cyberpunk RED podcast. We're coming for you, Rob. Anyway, so what we have as a new offering this month for Cyberpunk RED. Earlier we had the DLC for the Enter's Mission Kit, which you got some fancy new toys, but no place like home. An HQ builder for your party. So that way you can actually have a place that is like just yours to function out of instead of just, a fucking box.
Yep. It's hold on, okay, wait.
You're coming through on my end.
My mic isn't working on.
Oh no.
I don't think it. No. Hold on. God damn it.
Don't worry. I'm pretty sure we all can still hear you on my end. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm coming through Discord on your end. I'm not coming through on mine. But that's good, though, because, your half of the episode goes up on you. The problem is now mine is going to have a blank area. But, I was just telling you all that, we were talking about Power Wash Simulator. Asmongold's bedroom is not, in fact, getting added to that game, which is important. And my reminder is that you can trust us because we're not shill media. We are podcasters, which is very different. And we are infinitely more trustworthy as a direct result. Also, hello, my name is Emmerron. For those of you who are coming to Diamond's channel for the first time watching this, I am the co-host over here, just doing things and talking when my interface decides to work for me.
Yeah, I forgot to do introductions. I'm Diamond Dust. For those of you guys on Emmerron's channel, I don't know. I was a little hungover when he suggested that we start a podcast. Now here we are, 22 episodes later.
Yep.
And we were giggling at a meme about Asmongold's bedroom being added. But anyway, I'm talking about other things being added to games that we love, like Cyberpunk RED. Yes, HQ building in the latest DLC that's dropped today. No place like home. Base building in Cyberpunk RED. That's right, it's there. And it is looking to be pretty good. By the way, Emmerron, last week we were talking about how we don't see much of the Cyber 6. Guess what, guys? Go get the DLC because they're there. We found them.
They're in here.
They have been located.
It's so fucking crazy that we literally called it out. What was it, last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last week.
It was last week. Damn, time really flies. Anyway. That's nuts. That is absolutely insane. That we mentioned them and suddenly here they are. They're back. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Even if it's really brief at the end as mostly a character example, hey, they've been mentioned. Their names, they're back. I'm here. I'm so here for it. For those of you who don't know, this is only slightly shilling myself, I promise. I run games on StartPlaying, and one of those games happens right before the podcast on Thursdays. And today our game ran a little long, which is why we're a little late starting this. And so the reason I bring this up is not to advertise my games on StartPlaying, but you should play them. They're fun. It is also to mention that I have not gotten the chance to read this yet.
Because it dropped while we were in session.
Yeah, it dropped quite literally, like, I think it was like an hour or two after we had started playing. So while the rest of my party during their, like, when they're waiting to take a turn in a mostly downtime focused session today, they all got to read it and I have not yet. So my understanding of this could be just a tiny bit limited.
Now,
but we're gonna do our best.
I will just tell you this. Technically, we did have access to this a little bit earlier. Just a little bit.
I had no idea. Like,
yeah, you had no idea, but we did have access to it. Don't you worry.
News to me.
So yeah,
News to me.
I, in my great wisdom, was able to gain access to this just a little bit early, thanks to the wonderful folks at Artalsorian Games. Decided to have a look, and I will be leading a discussion on this. However, first things first, what is headquarters? We're going to define what headquarters is. It's a space controlled by the crew, and it is like their center of operations. It's your base, your hangout. It is where you live. Spend time together, plan the next move. This is like this is your spot. Now, of course, you gotta pay rent still. You gotta rent out the spot. You gotta do that. But you can deal with it. There are ways to deal with it. If the crew loses access to the headquarters, though, you lose everything, and you got to start from scratch all over again.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That surprise was not at you. As you're talking, I am reading the document, and I'm only now beginning to understand why Nyla was so excited. This gives a buff to nomads. They're getting another buff through this. That's crazy. Holy shit. Okay. So, yeah, because I was a little zoned out there, did you already talk about how the IP system works for this?
Well, we're about to get into that, actually. I was talking about
Great,
I was
awesome.
talking about defining what it is. Of course, it is a space that you do have to rent out. So, for example, you're renting out. You know what? I'll go with something here that this actually works really well, like I discussed for the Adventure Pineapple Express that I was working on stream here earlier today. One of the places that you could make your base of operations. Let's say you take over a mechanic's shop. So technically it might count as having a garage and a studio apartment. So, whenever the crew receives improvement points in the group column after completing a mission, they receive a number of points equal to improvement points. So, I suppose for a moment, but Diamond, what the fuck is the group column? Well, I am so glad you asked me, whoever asked that, because, I love to answer these questions because there are little fascinating things behind the scenes in getting better called group. Group, of course, you got your 4 major categories of players: your warriors, explorers, role players, and socializers. Group is more collectively together using their skills to complete objectives. And it tends to be how a lot of GMs will divvy out points to their crew members. And personally, I like it, especially if it's like a crew that is doing everything together. It tends to be group.
Yeah.
So whenever your crew earns IP that is specifically group, and it's not like warrior, role player, explorer, or socializer, it is specifically group. Your
And
HQ
the other
gains IP.
the other implication on group IP as well is that typically you're supposed to earn that implicitly. You're supposed to earn that at the end of missions. So during a mission, so like say like what we had today, right? This week we in my game had no mission. We simply had a downtime, pretty much. We went to a night market, we did a couple things, and we started the very scant beginnings of an investigation for what is going to turn into next week's actual gig. So this week, what I'm awarding IP based on, even if I do award the same number to everybody, is mostly based on role play. And like, did you show up? Did you play the game? Did you do, this, that, the other thing to like be a character in the world? But that could obviously reflect a little different for every player, just depending on like what we're judging on, right? Whereas at the end of a mission, there is IP granted not based on how well you role played individually or did whatever you did individually. It's based on what did the group accomplish in terms of the mission and its objectives, and like how well did they do that as a team. So you should, in theory, be getting IP that can apply to your HQ at least every mission, at the end of every single mission. So there is that as well.
This could be
just worth mentioning.
Basically when payday happens, that's when you get your get your IP. Well, unless like you get paid like sprinkled over the mass of the mission, but like for like a scream sheet, you get it once you complete the scream sheet, that kind of stuff. So, looking at this, then your group's headquarters gains IP, of course, at the end of every major mission that you complete. Whether the way I look at it, it's like missions for Tales of the Red, or completing the job that a fixer has put in front of you, or completing a scream sheet that you all have a collective goal of having to finish to get paid. So you complete the job and you're awarded 60 IP as a group. Your base gets 60 IP. Now you as a single player at the end of that mission may have earned 80 IP, 60 of it coming from the group. Your HQ does not get 80 IP, it gets 60. And
right. Well, and I think rules is written, I believe, Diamond, that it's you get one IP or the other.
Really?
So
okay.
it's I think so. Rules is written, I believe the way it's worded is you get group IP the same amount to everybody unless there is something in individual IP that would earn you more. So you're never getting two categories of IP. You are getting one category, and if an individual category would beat the group category, you get that amount instead, but you still would, for the purposes of this DLC, you'd still treat it as like, okay, your HQ got 60. That's the way that would apply. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Well, I learned something new today. All right, very nice. So, you designate a space that you'll have some measure of control over as your headquarters. And you can get yourself a place that you designate as headquarters as soon as you can afford one headquarters improvement. Now, there are many different forms of improvements that you can take to buff your place of your base of operations. Mm-hmm. And if crew members of the crew are going to live at the HQ, they must still pay the housing costs equivalent to the space and luxuries provided by said location. Now, the space can be one that they own or rent, or gained via the goodwill of a patron that allows them to operate out of this place. Most likely, you're gonna probably be renting out the space, though. Since you're living there, you still gotta pay for the operational costs of the place. So
the interesting thing is, so we can talk about the individual upgrades, because the fascinating thing is, if your HQ is somewhere you live, one of the improvements you can take on it is rent reduction, which is that's insane, actually insane. So the really interesting thing here is, they account for the fact here that your HQ as a group, presumably, could be a cube hotel, because they allow for the rent to be reduced to 100 eddies a month. I'm fascinated and a little terrified of how the fuck that works.
well, if it's anything like the Cyber Psycho that came out of the Cube Hotel oven I had here recently, sounds like a bad time.
Right, I'm like, there, because unless I've understood the definition wrong, and you can correct me if I have, an HQ needs to be something that you, the group, have a vested interest in, and a, like, it implies, at least to some extent here, a degree of ownership. Unless I've understood that wrong.
Well, maybe the Cube Hotel has perhaps some offices. Like maybe the Cube Hotel is on top of a small area of offices, and you happen to have rooms in the Cube Hotel and like an office space in the building. Perhaps.
Well, because it's like the rent reduction improvement gives edge runners who live in their HQ a break from the rent. Treat the cost of the rent as if it were one category lower on the real estate table, which is on the core rulebook, page 378. Skipping any row listed as given to you by a corp. The cost of rent for a cube hotel drops to 100 per month. Rent reduction cannot be applied to a headquarters with no monthly rent cost. So, yeah, there's an implication at the bare minimum here that someone is allowing for there to be ownership. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then Prepper Jack backed up what I was saying earlier. The quote is, if the mission was finished, either successfully or unsuccessfully, the players gain improvement points based on their group success, taking the value from the group column, unless they did something that the GM considers stand out from one of the other play styles that would award them more points. So yeah, basically, so if you have like everyone's group success IP would be 60, right? But one player in particular was a VIP GOAT and just went fucking off and just succeeded like nothing you've ever seen before at whatever they were doing, then GOAT Man gets the 80 IP because they earned it.
Okay.
But group IP is calculated at whatever the group would normally receive for that. So unless everyone did 80 IP worth of group IP based on the rubric, you would still give your HQ whatever IP the rest of the group earns, not the highest earner.
UWB sounds like college kids renting out rooms to lower the rent for each. Yeah, it does.
Could.
Now
it could. The question in my mind more, because if you read the descriptions of some of these cube hotels, they are not small buildings. Most of them, they're described as being like multiple stories tall. So that means that to buy one outright or have any kind of vested ownership interest in the building to the point that you could use it as a solid HQ would be challenging. They all, well, they're not all, but they are, a fair number of them also are in bad parts of the city. Like there's quite a few cubes that are like, I wouldn't want to live there long term. That is a stopgap place of living until I can afford something better.
You don't
Because
want
the
to live
last
at
thing
the
I want to do
unnamed-
is
You don't want to live at the unnamed cube hotel. You don't want to live
I
there.
do not want to live. It's one of the cube hotels. I think it might be the unnamed one.
It is.
Is the one that the one described as Saturday nights? Being in here is like being in a blender that's been turned on high.
That's the one up by Totentons. The unnamed cube hotel. That one. There's no employees there, and eviction is via the sprinklers.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Both don't make for great HQs, is my point. Which is kind of where I'm like, man, if you're choosing a cube hotel as your HQ, I am very confused how that works. Because, God, there's so many factors. Unless this would be the one case, right? This is the one instance I could see. In my Cyberpunk game that I run before the show on Thursdays, Diamond is playing a fixer by the name of Skimmer. And
Yep.
Skimmer has it in with the Piranhas. She has actually taken a rank of exec in order to serve them as like a low-level officer in a way. And so she has an agreement with this gang, obviously. She's part of their membership. She works with them. She's friends with several of them. You know, like they're all on pretty good terms. And so if the Piranhas, for example, in this instance, owned a cube hotel, then a lot of the parts about cube hotel life sucking related to the neighborhood would theoretically be able to fall away to an extent, obviously. There's still the parts where, like, if the guy next to you is partying his ass off at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, that's still a problem, but it's a very different kind than if you don't know the guy in the cube next to yours and they're actually on a fucking 4-day long, Dorf bender. That is a very different scenario. So yeah, that is the one case I could see that maybe working out. I feel like most parties aren't going to choose a cube hotel as their HQ though. So that's just an interesting little thing. That's all I'm saying.
So of course, when you do get this location you designate as HQ, you do have to pick an upgrade, and the upgrades that are present here seem to be pretty good. And one of the ones that I find amusing, because I have made jokes about actually setting up one of these in my room, just because of some of the weird conspiracy shit Artal's got going on, is the evidence board, which lawmen and
Dude,
fixers,
these are so fun.
the evidence wall. To understand the evidence wall, it's like this weird, like it's basically the red string and all the papers all up there. Think the scene Pepe
like,
Sylvia from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, just imagine I'm Charlie Day and it's just like, all of this is why Artal is going to secretly kill off Cyberpunk. They aren't. I'm totally fucking kidding. I'm probably gonna get canceled.
I'm telling you,
but
the fucking dolphins. All right,
the dolphins. Yeah, no, that's Toggle. That is a great in-universe reference of it.
Gosh.
Yeah, Toggle would literally be doing the fucking dolphins, guys, and he'd have like a whole wall with thumbtacks and red thread everywhere. Like, that's what we're talking about with that. Yeah,
we got but yeah, with the evidence wall, medias gain a +2 bonus to their composition, and lawmen gain +2 to their bonus on composition. Criminology, cryptography, deduction, education, forgery, a whole slew of skills that apply to investigations. Forgery, lawmen, I'm not at all surprised. Anyway, and then every HQ improvement has an upgraded variant of it. So if you upgrade it, the bonus goes up to +3 for lawmen. The bonus for media still remains at +2. However, media's credibility increases by 1 for the purposes of believability when they publish a story using the
Which is
evidence
very
wall.
good. That's very good. Anytime your media gets a +1 to their credibility, that is a massive buff. Like, more than almost any other role in the game, when medias get bonuses to their credibility, oh my god. You can do so much with that shit.
Poor Lawman. I was hoping that, maybe they get a +1 to be able to pull bigger resources if, the evidence board is something that they're working on.
I mean, in theory, they could, though, because this is something where then they're starting to be able to make a better case for, here's why I need, a rocket launcher for the thing I'm doing, right? Like, that's an extreme case.
Look,
however,
I know we're going to a scav hole. I know normally you only need shotguns for those places. This place needs a grenade launcher for this reason.
Yeah, it's like points at the cyber psycho scav that he's like, this fucker right here, who you can see by the strands of red thread pointed off of his photo, is connected in intimately with this particular scav hole. And we have reason to believe that they will be present if we attempt any kind of entry to the premises of this con app. So, Lieutenant, this is why I need a rocket launcher. So, but I mean, yeah, because truly, like that is what criminology then boils into effectively. So you're able to make a case with that. I would say. I think this is a buff to lawmen, and it is a good one. It is actually a great buff to lawmen.
Now, Nyla, remain calm. I know you're in there. Remain calm. But the garage. Having a garage at HQ, it comes with a compact ground car that is owned by the crew that anyone has access to. However, it cannot be improved via the Nomad's Moto role. However, it can be improved by going out, buying the stuff that you need to improve it, or having the tech build it, and then installing it on the vehicle.
Yeah, so to be clear, guys, just in case that was confusing, you get compact ground car. The compact ground car is party property. Therefore, the Nomad does not own it, and therefore the Nomad cannot use their moto ability to add upgrades to it for free. It can still receive those upgrades, but you have to pay market price for them, which is 1,000 for anything that is rank 1, 5,000 for anything that is, I think, rank 5 or higher. Which is, it's a lot. That's a lot of money for some of those higher level upgrades. However, that's not why we said, because I know we said earlier, I'm like, wow, the garage is just a straight buff to Nomads. And y'all are listening to us now, and you're like, it doesn't even benefit from the Nomad. What the fuck are you talking about?
But
Diamond,
base garage does have a big caveat, though. If the car is destroyed, you lose access to your garage improvement until you spend another 40 HQ IP to get a new car. To obtain a new vehicle. Now,
and if the car is destroyed beyond, well, it says very specifically, if the car is destroyed beyond repair. So if the car explodes, you've got a problem. If the car just gets shot up to the point that it doesn't move anymore, you could, in theory, repair it.
Yeah. Now, if the garage is upgraded, Nomads gain an additional benefit, assuming all of the Nomads vehicles are at full HP and working condition. They can spend 1 week of downtime to respec their vehicles with the motor roll ability to date. Swapping out vehicle upgrades or even entire vehicles as desired.
Yep. That's incredible. And it's something that, like, Nyla mentioned earlier. He's like, yeah, I mean, I thought that, like, Nomad should be able to do that already. And I was like, that'd be really strong. Because, like, I've talked before, it's been a while since I last talked about this. But I've talked about how there are different roles in Cyberpunk that they progress in different ways, right? So you have some that are like strict progression, some that are forked progression, and some that are point pools, right? And so Nomad's rollability, at least before this, in a big way, was linear progression. You get to just choose stuff, right? Yep. And so like the unique thing about Nomad is that they have a strict progression around items that can be purchased separately, right? So in theory, if you earn enough eddies or are ballsy enough, you could steal, acquire, etc., a vehicle separate from your moto ability. But obviously there's some risks with that. And so having the ability to decide differently on your moto roll ability, like Niall has mentioned a couple times in our current game where he is playing a Nomad, it's like, man, if I had known how little I'd be using water transport, I may not have taken a jet ski. Well, with this second garage upgrade here, he could swap that second jet ski for a rank 1 upgrade for one of his existing vehicles, or a different vehicle altogether that is rank 1 or better, which is, yeah, like that's incredible. That's very, very good, really strong. So I think it's cool to see this gated, because I know a lot of people made the same argument he did with me, where it's like, man, Nomad should be able to swap that out. What the hell kind of a sense does it make if it's a family car? Like, if it's just a family car, why can't I just ask my family to swap it out for something? And I'm like, you could, I guess, but it's like, it's a big question mark, because it's like, yeah, well, by that logic, technically, you could have access to any vehicle you want in the game once you hit a certain point in Nomad. And it's like, that doesn't seem right. It's something about that didn't feel great.
It's also partially, you know, we don't have enough to constantly keep cycling things around, you know, in the time of the red. So you got your choice, work with it.
Right. But this gives you like, and I'm guessing to see the benefit here makes some sense to me in universe too, because if you have a large enough a garage to ensure the safety of the vehicle that you're storing there, your family is probably more trusting and willing to like give you the benefit of the doubt that you'll have you'll have the space to care for and secure a vehicle they lend you, and therefore be willing to let you swap that vehicle out more readily. That's the way I read this, and I think that's a cool idea.
And then we have lockup. A lockup is a soundproof place where the crew can drag off a single character and keep them prisoner. When imprisoned in lockup, the character cannot escape unless they have body 13 or higher, which if you are somehow able to manage to wrangle someone body 13 or higher,
good luck.
Interesting.
Good luck.
No, I don't want to deal with anyone with linear frame beta.
Well, so that's like my crew managed to literally throw Omega framed FBCs out the window in Neon Inferno a few episodes back. So like, it can be done, but you're probably not going to want them in your HQ. I guarantee you that. Better to kill them.
Oh yeah.
Or at the very least, just eject the biosystem from them, most likely, because if they're that high on their body, they have a higher than normal chance of being an FBC.
Also, others will certainly come looking for that person unless that person absolutely has nobody in their life.
Yeah.
And then for an upgrade with lockup, up to 3 characters can be kept in separate cells. In addition, lawmen gain a +2 bonus to interrogation checks when questioning a prisoner who has spent 1 day in lockup.
It's good. It's very good. It's another buff to lawmen. That's very, very good. We like buffs to lawmen.
Yeah, and to me, like, looking at this, it's really nice to see this. And I know, jumping over to other game that we talked about recently, Blade Runner, lockup provides the detectives a bonus, or like you gain advantage when you're questioning people that you keep in lockup. So it's nice to see that. Lounge.
It's good. It's very good. Yeah. Now here's the fixer buff.
Not just fixers, but medias gain a buff a little bit later. But
yeah, for the upgrade, but fixers get the brunt of this.
During in-person meetings held at the lounge, fixers in the crew gain a +2 bonus to bribery, bureaucracy, basically all the social wheel greasing skills that are in here. And then if you upgrade it, medias also get a +2 to all checks set up. Fixers and medias gain +2 to all checks to set up an in-person meeting with anyone the GM determines falls under their contacts and clients. So you gain just a +2 advantage against anyone in your contact list if they come to your place to meet.
Yeah, because you have home field advantage. Mm-hmm. That's the way that works. That's very, very cool. I love that.
Medtechs. It's been a very long time. And you now have the med bay. With access to the med bay, which all these things seem to cost 40 points, it looks like. With access to the med bay, members of the crew naturally heal as if their body was 2 points higher.
Oh, so, this is cracked. What the fuck? Because, okay, that first part's good. The second part is... Wow.
Medtechs, as long as you're in the med bay doing your work, you get a +2 to first aid, paramedic, and surgery skills to putting people back together.
Okay, that's good too. I'm talking about the actual upgrade to this.
The upgrade. Yes.
The upgrade is wild.
Go ahead.
All that is very good though. Part 1, very good. Part 2, so if you upgrade the med bay with another 40 HQIP, a medtech crew member can use the science chemistry skill to upgrade, fabricate, and invent street drugs as if they were a tech using the maker role ability. And you consider the medtech's upgrade, fab, or invention expertise to be equal to their medical tech skill level for this purpose. Of course I get excited about drugs, Prepperjack. Look, okay? We had to have a whole discussion with my crew at the start of season 2 of Neon Inferno because Ghost wanted to be a tech that could make drugs. And I have always thought it was so weird that the same gear you use as a med tech to craft pharmaceuticals could not be retooled or used in a different way to make street drugs. That always made no sense to me because all a street drug is basically a fast and dirty version of something legitimate in a lot of cases, right? So this is incredibly good. Like, this is so cool. That opens up a whole new type of character. That's why I'm excited about it. It's not so much that it has to do with drugs. It's that it gives use to a skill that I saw very little use in before. Like, how many people take science? Very, very few. Unless you're rolling like with homebrews. Like, I've got one of my games where I've got a homebrew psychologist who's taken science psychology a few times to get bonuses on therapy checks. And that's cool. Like, that is cool. But it requires me to think outside the box and ascribe a use to a skill. This gives a raw use for science now that we did not already have outside of the realm of like complementary skill checks. This is very cool. And it doesn't require you to take tech either, which is even better. You can just be int focused. You don't need to be tech focused for this, that's very cool. That's really nice. I really, really, really like that.
All right, the next one. This one is a very potent and powerful boost here. kind of gives it gives your crew a little bit of a recreation area in your in or around your headquarters. It's called the morale boost, and it's just it's comforts for you and your crew here. And I suppose we'll take a moment to take a look at this list. But each morale boost is 40 HQ IP, and you get 10 of them. Or you can get up to 10 of them. And this improvement reduces stress and as a result lowers the monthly lifestyle cost of all members by 50 eddies up front. And then for every 40 40 points spent after, you gain a new benefit. So up front, it's $50 off lifestyle. That's half the kibble lifestyle, and like a sixth of the generic pre-pack. Like that is good. For
So Diamond,
yeah.
if we take this twice, does that mean I can just not use lifestyle anymore? Because I can just eat kibble forever for free?
Well, that's the thing. There is a track, actually, that the lifestyle follows under. And at the beginning of every month, when you take your first instance of this, so you add stripper poles into your lifestyle increase. Wow, Prepper. Wow. I feel a little attacked.
Then your lifestyle costs increase from that.
Oh,
God!
There's
something in that comment that is against TOS that I'm not gonna repeat it in my voice, but I mean it's a video podcast. Y'all can read it on the screen below me right over there. So like, read down there. There we go. I'm pointing at it now. Yeah, read down there. You'll see what he said.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
But there are 11 upgrades here. We'll just have a quick look here. For the first one, at the beginning of every month, each crew member can restore 1d6 divided by 2 humanity up to their maximum humanity, as determined by their cyberware. So you get to regen a little bit more of your humanity on top of what you get from the long-term rules if you're using the long-term.
You want to know something really, really funny about that?
What's that?
Is that this actually, by implication, this answers a kind of I would say it's a frequently asked question that accompanied the humanity updates in the CEMK. Because this is a non-standard die roll, this means, in theory, that you aren't, because what I was describing before, when we've talked about the CEMK and the humanity update, is you could, in theory, since everything is done in D6s, you could determine whether you wanted to roll all the numbers or if you wanted to just ledger it, right? Where you're like, okay, so every positive and negative D6 cancel out, and then we just roll whichever has more on the ledger at the end, right? This, by this existing and therefore being a non-standard die, breaks that. You cannot do that with this.
You have to ledger.
So you have to roll. You now have to roll. You don't get a choice not to roll each of those die separately. Because you can't ledger this because it's half of a die. So yeah, that is just, it is an interesting little thing that this technically makes this clarifies an earlier rule that Jay had up to the point that was, the discussion said like, yeah, you could do it either way, right? Now we know we have to do it one way, because if we don't do it that way, then this breaks.
Next up, and this is especially good if you have medbay, because it stacks. If you take a second instance of this upgrade, crew members heal naturally as if they had 1 point higher if they're at HQ. So you could get up to counting as body 3 for the matter of healing. So I guess
body plus 3. So the minimum you're going to be healing at a body 2 is 5, which is very good. Healing 5 health when you're only a body 2 means you're probably healing like somewhere between a quarter to a sixth of your health, which is insane.
Oh yeah. And then at rank 3, the crew, including exec improved team members, which I think that's going to be talked about here a little bit later, increase their luck by 1. This is one of the only ways for an NPC to be given a luck pool.
Oh,
So
that's
your employees
crazy.
could gain luck, actually, execs, if they are improved team members, which we'll talk about them in a bit here. At the beginning of each month, for improvement number 4, at the beginning of each month, the crew member restores 1d6 humanity up to their maximum humanity. When we get to the top of the month.
Right.
All
and then
right.
that replaces the earlier one. That's an important thing. So the 2 don't stack. You, instead of regaining 1d6 divided by 2, you just get 1d6 flat. So once you get to this point, you could go back to ledgering if you really want to. But at this point, I think we determined that's the wrong way to do it. Huh?
So, I thought ledgering was where you had to roll each dice one by one by one.
No, so ledgering is you say, okay, here are all your negative dice, here are all your positive dice, and then we just do the math to see, okay, which side has more, right? Okay. Is it more positive or more negative? And then you just roll those dice. Just to cut down on the number of die you might roll, because depending on how good or bad of a month you had, you could have a lot of incidents that you need to then roll for on the long-term table. Right. Whereas because of these rules now, we know you need to roll them individually.
I personally like rolling dice individually, though, because
I know
get real
you like
fucking
that.
Swingy.
For me, I'm like, I sit somewhere on the rules light side, even though like red is not really that rules light. It feels that way sometimes. So I like taking as much crunch out of the system as I can. But like, yeah, now I'm just gonna have to roll. And that's fine. Like,
let's roll more dice. Fuck yeah. Anyway,
let's go gambling.
Number 5.
Like
Fixers gain a +2 to trading checks when they're negotiating the pay per person on a job. Non-fixer members of the crew can also now haggle to increase pay per person as if they were fixer rank 5.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
They do not. Wait. But they don't get the haggle bonus.
They don't
That's
get it.
Fair.
But they do get that ability like fixers get.
That makes more sense. Okay. No, that's still really, really good. Like, actually really good. That gives a reason for someone who isn't a fixer to maybe take the trading ability, or the trading skill rather. Mm-hmm. But that's, Jesus, that is that's wild.
While hustling, members of the crew can roll twice on the appropriate hustle table and take which job that they prefer that they do that week. Which that's very nice. That's very helpful.
Advantage on hustle, because there's sometimes where you just roll like you get nothing, and I'm like, fuck. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. But yeah, if you could roll 2, choose the better, and I'm like, that is kind of peak, honestly.
Yeah. Then the 7th one, we get another point of luck to your pool. So this is now a way to exceed over the normal luck table then. Or so another stat can go beyond 8.
Yep, this is one of the first times we've also seen that be a permanent increase outside of body. Body's up to this point. Body has been the only one that you could permanently boost.
You could improve. You could permanently improve your reflex to up by 1 as long as you're sniffing up that coke.
But see, that's always temporary, because all it takes is one med tech on the enemy squad coming around with a rapid detox to knock you out of that.
While this is true, it's kind of funny.
Like, you could, but yeah, no, I mean, like, you flip your brain off and don't have to worry about upkeep. You literally just get it, and that's insane.
And then number 9 gets silly with the humanity. You roll 2d6 and you take the better of two. You roll humanity. You roll for humanity gain with advantage, basically.
Yeah.
However, this replaces the benefit gained from the 4th morale boost upgrade, so it doesn't become
Which replaced the first one.
Yeah.
So the 4th replaces the 1st, the 9th replaces the 4th.
It's basically an upgrade.
Yeah.
And then number 10, you choose your own. Work with a GM to create a new morale boost benefit designed around the specific circumstances of your crew.
That's wild. That's actually wild. It's cool because you're right. If you've invested that much into HQ at that point, you've invested as much IP as some characters have at the end of a campaign by the time you get there. Because that's what 440 IP just on this upgrade. Like, never mind any others. But like just on the morale boost, you've invested 440 IP into this.
It is literally your own personal piece of paradise you've cut out in hell.
Until hell comes knocking on it with bombs and fireworks. Now. So now we go back up because after morale boost, you got rent reduction, and this is the one that I was talking about with cube hotels. Because all of you were probably looking at me like, Emmerron, why are you yapping about cube hotels? No one gives a fuck. And I'm like, here's why. Because rent reduction gives edge runners who live in their headquarters a brink on the rent. They treat the cost of rent as if it were one category lower on the real estate table. Skipping a row list is given to you by a corp. Cost of rent for a cube hotel drops to $100 a month. Rent reduction cannot be applied to an HQ with no monthly rent cost. And then if you upgrade it for an additional 40, when you add another rent reduction improvement, you can add it as many times as there's an X value here, right? So you could raise it up to X, where X is double the number of beds in your living space. So if you're doing this, for example, in a cargo container, you can only take the upgrade once because you start with 1 bed in the cargo container and you can have up to 2. But if you live in a 2-bedroom apartment, technically you can have up to 4 beds in that 2-bedroom apartment. So you can take this upgrade 2 times because you start with 2 and then add 2. So that's very cool. And but the rent reduction itself does not get multiplied. So in other words, your rent only ever goes down by 1 tier, but the number of beds accounted for in that space is improved by up to the number it can normally accommodate in terms of people without getting, I think that's based on cramp, right? Because like, I think you're not considered cramped in a cube hotel, or not a cube hotel, in a cargo container until you have more than 2 people, right?
Yes. Cargo containers can hold 2 people.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it's basically whatever amount of people the housing type can fit per the core rulebook comfortably. That's your X value for this. Accounting, of course, for anything that you already have in the space at the beginning. So like a 2-bedroom apartment starts with 2 beds, but it can house up to 4 people comfortably.
Yep.
So you can take this up to 2 additional times to equal X.
And then, of course, next up, Netrunners server room. Wireheads, we finally get it. We get our own personal server.
Yay!
The headquarters now has a net architecture using Home Security 2045 from Cyberpunk, their core rulebook, page 217, and 20,000 eddies. Now you might be thinking, 20,000 eddies, that's a lot of money. You don't get to keep the money.
It is, but it's not.
Like in the case of net architectures, 20,000 eds only gets you so far. So, and make sure you spend everything because you don't get to keep anything after spending it. And also on top of that, you won't be able to resell or remove anything bought later. And also, When the server room's upgraded, a Netrunner crew member can use electronic security tech to upgrade, fabricate, invent cyberdeck hardware, and cyberdeck programs as if they were a tech using the Maker role ability. Consider the Netrunner's upgrade, fabrication, or invention expertise to be equal to their interface rank for this purpose.
Yep. It's very good.
It is.
It's
powerful.
Very good.
Especially
it's
because...
so funny. Because Nyla and I were literally talking about this for Neon Inferno like not a week ago. Like he's like, I want to take tech as a subclass, basically. I want to take it as like a secondary role to my Netrunner. And I'm like, he's like, but when I want to make programs, right? Like, I can add my interface to my Maker ability. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. It seems the designers agree too. So it seems James and Jay both agree with us as well. That's very, very good.
And also what's huge about this, like med techs, you got to split your points between, medical tech and surgery. And techs, you got to split your, Maker points amongst all that. I mean, given you get a huge tech bonus anyway.
Right.
Interface, that's just one raw number that just hits your score. It's not divvied out into other skills. So that is big. Very, very big.
That's massive. Like that's unironically, so that is massive.
A rank 7 Netrunner with, decent electronic security tech versus trying to fabricate things with +7 versus the tech who only has like, maybe 3 points to fabricate. You're a leg ahead. Can't take it with you.
Yeah.
But
potentially.
Do you include the upgrade in the resale value? PWB, there isn't really like the matter of resale in HQ.
Yeah, here's the fun thing. In Cyberpunk, you own what you can carry. Anything else is temporary. You own what you can carry on your back, and if you can't carry it on your back, then it's potentially owned by someone else and you just don't know it yet. Or you're renting from that other person in the case of like your apartment or something like that. So it's tricky. And if you have a whole server room, that shit is like, it's like if you were to move out of a house, right? And you have cabinets in that house. And you're like, I'm going to take the cabinets with me. It's like, in theory, could you do that? Sure. Do you look insane for doing that? Yes. Is a server going to be more expensive? Probably. But like real estate isn't really a thing that you ever get into is street level in Cyberpunk Red. Ever.
Unless you're Scott Brown.
But then even then they were more interacting with the other systems that already existed in the city. They weren't buying and selling. They were just like, we're gonna call the real estate agent and pull a fast one. That was what that was. Which is important to remember. But no, yeah, that's we don't think about resale value in terms of anything like that, because odds are you don't own your HQ, someone else does, and you just happen to be using it as an HQ under their noses, probably, if they don't agree with being an edge runner, or if they do, it's at their good graces, and if you do something to cross them, they will probably rug you in the worst way possible. That's just the way it's going to work.
Rocker boys.
We are, by the way, Diamond, we are at an hour.
Oh.
Just to alert you to the facts of the situation.
Shit.
Maybe we are going for a full podcast on this, and we might talk about the other stuff next time.
So, do we want to cut here and then jump to the other half here with you, picking up on studio?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, I think that's probably for the best.
Okay.
So, yeah, we will. Oh my goodness, PWB and DE, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that.
So, folks,
But yeah,
thanks for tuning in on my half of the episode. Didn't realize we were running long here, but there's just so much to talk about, so much to discuss. And honestly, this DLC is a huge game changer for, even though it's not as big as other DLCs, this is huge what it can do for a group. So, of course, go to the link below. It'll take you to Emmerron's channel for those of you watching on YouTube. Spotify, Twitch, just stay where you are. Don't run away. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. But as for everyone else, of course, I'm Diamond Dust. If you enjoy what I'm doing over here, feel free to subscribe. And then go on over to Emmerron, subscribe to his channel, and listen to the second half of this episode.
Please subscribe to me.
Go.
We're so close.
Go get it.
We're so close to 800 subscribers on YouTube. It's crazy.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll see you over on my channel here, guys. See you in just a bit.
All right. Bye.